All right. We are back for Roundtable Ravens episode number 30. We are at number 30. Woo!
Crazy.
I know. We've been doing this for quite a bit now, and we're going to continue talking about some training camp positions. But before that, as I have been starting every podcast, please do us a favor: like, share, subscribe, do all the social media things, please, please, please. Helps with exposure, all that good stuff. If you like what you hear, you have Ravens fans in your family, your friends, whatever, or if you like to hate watch us, that's fine too. I don't care. It helps us out.
Any
Also,
Steelers and Browns and Bengals fans out there?
exactly. You can just go and share that. I don't care. Also, in the description of this video, you will see the official Roundtable Ravens site. It's free to create an account. You can go there. And again, if you're a hate watcher, you can go and comment and talk some smack on the posts and articles and all that good stuff. But jumping right into things, instead of going to three positions today, we're going to kind of like take a little bit of a derail, simply because the topic of conversation this week has been all about Lamar Jackson for a very odd reason. Now, we will describe this as neutrally as possible, but we have to point it out because it's kind of ridiculous. Lamar Jackson debuted on the official NFL Top 100 Players list at number 69. Now, what makes this very weird is the fact that he has fallen 67 places. This also means that he's probably going to be ranked lower than a lot of quarterbacks heading into the 2026 season. Additionally, ESPN has been ranking every position group the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and going through the top 10, which is voted on by scouts, by coaches, and by executives. Lamar Jackson debuted, or rather, yeah, I guess he debuted. I don't know if they've been doing this last year or the year before that, but whatever. He's number 5 on that list. Additionally, Colin Cowherd. This one you can take with a grain of salt because I think this guy's a crackpot, but he did not even rank Lamar in the top 10 of his list. I will say this also, he has Caleb Williams over Matthew Stafford. Take that information as you will. This is not our Rams podcast. We don't need to get into that part. We can later, but that being said, what is going on here? So funny enough, I saw a response to one of the tweets about that said, it's our annual let's use Lamar Jackson for clicks week of the NFL season. I thought that was very funny. I thought that was very on par. Yeah. So obviously rankings are subjective. They're always going to be per person, how they feel. So you can feel how you want to feel. You can put whoever you want to put wherever you want to put them. But it stands to reason that there's some very obvious confusion, or rather, I'm confused. Not confusion on anybody else's part who did these rankings, but I'm just kind of confused as, yes, Lamar Jackson had a very rough 2025 season. We all know this. He had some injury issues, but it's an outlier of a season in the grand scheme of things. Just the year before, he was up for an MVP award, should have won the MVP award, would have been his third league MVP award. We've talked about this. I will die on that hill. Not so much because I am not a fan of Josh Allen, so much so that I just feel like Lamar Jackson was better. Anyway, that being said, yeah, this is very odd. I think the NFL Top 100 thing is just the weirdest of it. Obviously, I think Colin Cowherd is just a clickbait guy that just wants to anger everybody up and anger up the blood, and that's how he gets his clicks, and he's in business, whatever. But yeah, I just don't see a reality where Lamar Jackson should be ranked that low on a top 100 list. Should he have fallen? Absolutely. He did not have a great season, but it was an okay season for what it was. That doesn't mean that he's still one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Anyway, yeah.
He's just held to an impossible standard. This is nothing new. I think every year, no matter what the stats like come into the league, oh, he's a running back. Okay, so he shows you that you can throw the ball. Oh, well, he's losing his skills with his legs, and then he comes back and has like a record like year rushing. And nothing that he does is ever going to impress anybody. I think he is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks in the league. I think he's spoken about in a way that no other quarterback of his caliber is spoken about. And I'm sure for him, this is just going to roll off his back and probably doesn't mean anything, but it is draining to see as media members and also as, you know, football fans. It's like, how are you watching Lamar Jackson every Sunday and not having the best time of your life? Because even when the Ravens are doing badly and they're playing generally poorly. Lamar is always playing lights out football. And he was injured last year. That was a complete rogue year of his season, completely uncharacteristic year. And I just find it odd that, like, he has one bad on his part year. And then everyone's like, oh, this guy's done. Like, it's just, yeah, I'm with you. It's just weird confusion. Completely have no idea what people are on doing this.
I'll say
Are there
this.
60? There are even 68 players better than Lamar Jackson in playing in the league right now.
I'll say this too. What makes it even weirder is that people. Okay, so the Ravens win total is still second right now at 11.5 wins per sports books. They are expected to take this big bounce back year. Everyone believes that's going to be the case. And the reason for that, I'm not saying solely, but a huge reason for that bounce back year is a healthy Lamar Jackson. So how and what reality is he now 68 players ahead of him in the NFL that are better? Again, quarterbacks too, because now you're going to see the quarterbacks start to come out and you're going to see who's ranked above. And I guarantee it's going to be somebody like Caleb Williams. This is not a shot against Caleb Williams. I am a fan of Caleb Williams. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's going to get better and better every single year.
He's not got the tenure that Lamar has, though.
Right. So, I mean, that's the thing too, is if they're going solely based on the 2025 season, then fine. Yeah, okay, I get it. But even so, Lamar still put up 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he had over 2,500 passing yards. I don't know what his rushing yards were off the top of my head,
and he was out for like weeks.
Right. That being said, like, I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of things, he was far better than most other quarterbacks in the league that weren't hurt. So I am just saying, look, we're trying to be as neutral as possible here. We're not going to sit here and be like, Lamar Jackson's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're not going to do that. But the point
he might be.
I mean, the point being is, like, it's just very weird that this happens every year, and to this degree this time, in the fact that he was ranked so low on that list. And everybody was talking about it. Everybody, like, we're talking about it, but everybody else was talking about it. Like, the Baltimore Ravens site brought it up. They made a video why it doesn't make sense. We're talking about why it doesn't make sense. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, why, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, like Billy, you nailed it right on the head. Like, I think he's the most disrespected quarterback that I have seen since I started watching football. And for some reason, he's just under scrutiny for any little thing he does. Like, he just can't get a pass for anything. You watch this guy play on Sunday when he's healthy, and I can't even name 5 better players than this guy when he's right. And yeah, 2025 is not the year to judge it. And if you want to judge the 2025 year, then why was Joe Burrow ahead of him in the executive coaches and scouts saying he only played 8 games last year? And you want to talk about durability issues? Sure, Lamar, that's a fair question to pose, right? Like, durability issues, because I think he's missed about like 3 games or 4 games in the past couple of years, which is all right. Yeah, that happens. That's part of the game, right? But Joe Burrow is just like even worse than that, right? So, like, how are you going to have
last couple seasons he barely played? Like,
exactly. I don't get it. Like, for me, toe to toe, when they're both right, I'm still taking Lamar Jackson. I just am. And at worst, I think he's a top 3 quarterback at his position. And overall, I think he's still in this day, he's top 5. I don't get the disrespect. This is a 2-time league MVP. I think he should have been 3-time MVP in 2024. He wins close to 70% of his games when he is healthy. I don't even think Patrick Mahomes does that. This is absurd. This guy is a winner. He's been a winner since the moment he's been named starting quarterback. He's improved on every single facet of his game. When he's out there, more times than not, he does the right thing. Not only that, if you want to talk about all these other stats, he's been an All-Pro. Josh Allen hasn't even been an All-Pro. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this just boggles my mind. And
additionally,
I want to,
real quick,
I don't,
just to jump in, if we are basing stats on the 2025 season, nobody should be ranked above Matthew Stafford then.
Exactly. Okay, just to hit that point, there was no better quarterback in 2025 than Matthew Stafford, and I don't even think it was close. So, like, if you do want to base it on 2025, well, yeah, exactly. Why isn't Matthew Stafford there? Josh Allen, from beginning to end, was not that well. Patrick Mahomes obviously had that injury. Joe Burrow had that injury. right? So like, what's going on here? But it's just it's weird how they view Jackson. It's just weird how they scrutinize him, how they do want to praise him, and then how they want to shoot him down. I mean, I truly don't get this. It's just mind-boggling to me. And even so, when watching that top 100 thing, Cal Van Noy spoke on it, and till this day, he still used the term quarterbacky, which was something that was used on him back in 2018. What was it, before he was drafted, or maybe a little after he was drafted? I forgot who said it.
After he was drafted.
It was after he was drafted.
Medium.
Yeah. What said he was not quarterbacky until this day. Like Cal Van Noy still has to come. Like, yeah, that's not the case anymore.
Not quarterbacky.
And he's like, what? Like, I mean, I think we all know what that means, but it's just like, it's just like you see his play, and I don't get how you don't like view this guy as one of the best. I think when he's right, I think he's the best player in the league. It's that simple. The numbers show that, and sure, I think what also really hinders him from in terms of how other people view him is his playoff stats and how he performs in the playoffs, which is fair to a degree, but if you're talking about a 17 game regular season and whatnot, and he still has to prove himself in the playoffs, there's no doubt about that, and I think some of that is not his fault either. So yeah, well, the stats are there. There's context behind that, and I think people just decide to ignore that for their own benefit when they're talking down on Lamar.
Yeah, and again, I'll say this to say that I'll say this is like, again, it's subjective, but I also there's a certain degree that I think these rankings are made to draw these kinds of conversations out and to make 100%. People share and to make people click and all that stuff. We do it. I get it. Case in point, too, if we're looking at stats from the year before and then the ranking or whatever, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were ranked above Jackson Smith and Jigba on the wide receiver one, which makes no sense whatsoever when he was the top receiver by leaps and bounds out of anybody in the league in 2025. So, again, whatever, it's subjective. Let's just leave it there.
But it's always Lamar. It's always Lamar.
It is.
They'll want to take a stab at, and it's enough now. Like, it's boring. It's been boring for years. This happened when he first came in the league. It's even more boring now that he's been here and proved himself in the way that he does. It's not classy. It's weird. It's tacky, and it needs to stop.
And if that's the case, then Josh Allen should be held to the same standard because he has not been to a Super Bowl.
Don't get me started on that because we could do a whole podcast on how I feel about
I know. He's not. He's not right. That's the frustrating part.
And let's go back to the fact that he's number one and Patrick Mahomes is number two, and Patrick Mahomes has all the rings in the world right now. So when do you think that whatever? All right. We're going to move right along because I know we're getting too hot about this.
Let's commit a podcast episode just to the comparisons between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and the standards of which the two of them are held to.
You know what? We could do that, but we're going to see how the season unfolds and just go from there. Moving right along, we're going to go right into
Mahomes hasn't been better than Lamar in 2 years, so I don't...
Mm-hmm.
Go.
All right. Moving right along to training camp here before we get way too in the weeds about arguing for Lamar's sake, which again, like I said, we're neutral about it, but I mean, come on. Anyway, moving on. We're going to jump right into the tight ends. This should be a shorter bit because Ravens don't got a whole lot of tight ends. We kind of know who's in the building. We kind of know what's going on. Here we go. So we got the main man, Mark Andrews. He was given I think it was a 3-year extension back in December. People could argue all day that shouldn't have been the case and it should have been Isaiah Likely, whatever. He's in the building. He's a veteran that Lamar Jackson trusts. He's the veteran that the offense trusts, that the Ravens organization trusts, which is why he's gotten another extension. And he has been a consummate pro through his entire career. He's there. Beyond him, you got Durham Smythe, who is the blocking tight end. He came from the Dolphins and the Chicago Bears, and obviously has a lot of familiarity there with Declan Doyle, which is why he was brought over. He can be used in the pass game. He's been decent enough in it, but he is a blocking tight end. That is his entire job. With Patrick Ricard also gone, that is what he's going to be doing for the Ravens, and we understand that. Beyond that, the Ravens have a couple of young upstarts that could potentially be some breakouts. We got former SMU prospect Matthew Hibner, and then Alabama prospect Josh Cuevas. Both have been pretty prolific themselves, but I would say that Josh Cuevas is a little bit more of a blocker than Matthew Hibner is. But again, these are two young upstarts that could be used in different ways in Declan Doyle's offense, and we'll see what happens with both of them. And then there is Ty Pezza, who is an undrafted free agent. Obviously, he will have a very tough time making the 53-man roster, but he could be a practice squad option. The tight end room is small, succinct, but I think it's going to be a pretty good room, specifically because those two that the Ravens drafted are ideally the replacements for Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is getting a lot older in terms of football years. He's not going to be around for much longer, in my opinion. Maybe he's got 2 more years, if that. That being said, 2-3, I'll give you that. Maybe it's something like that.
30 years old and freaking old man Travis Kelce is still waddling around.
Hey, look, I'm just saying, like, in football years, he's old. That's all I'm saying. But
I hear it.
That being said, I say that to be like, dude, I'm, 30 years old is not old. But like in football years, it's pretty old. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's the tight end room. Again, I think Hibner and Cuevas are going to be really huge assets in this room. I think both are going to be used in very unique ways. They could both. I mean, I would say Hibner would probably have to upgrade his blocking a little bit to be that third string, or rather that second string pass catcher, because again, Durham Smythe is going to be that blocker.
Yeah, I need to keep reminding myself that this is not John Harbaugh's offense anymore. It's not a Todd Monken offense. It's going to look different.
Way different.
And I wonder if conversations between Eric DeCosta and Steve Bisciotti around the time Mark Andrews was extended contributed to the fact that, that's why they didn't re-sign Likely and they let Charlie Kolar go as well. Obviously, they wouldn't have known at that point that Jesse Minter was the guy coming in, and they wouldn't have known that Declan Doyle was the next guy up. So all of this to say, I think, it's very intentional that Mark Andrews is the guy. Lamar trusts him. Obviously, fans have their own problems because of the drop. But, one play does not a playoff game make. You can't just blame it all on him. Just like you can't blame it on, say, Flowers fumbling at the goal line. It's a sensitive topic for me, okay?
Or Derrick Henry, or no.
Or Tyler Luke missing the ball,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
And on and on it goes.
We've been there through the trenches. My initial looking at it is concern on it, and I feel the same way about the O-line. I just feel generally concerned about the offense because so much other than Lamar, no one's ever worried about you. Don't worry about it. Other than Lamar and Derrick Henry, a lot of this is new. There's going to be 2 new wide receivers to play alongside Zay Flowers. We spoke about that last week. There's going to be a whole lot of new tight ends, and Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar were big parts of those just like wow moment plays, where they just nothing was happening, and then like Likely was down the field, or Charlie Cole was running up the side and no one's ever expecting him. He said a great quote when he was like, no one's ever worried about the fat guy running down the seam. And that's what Charlie Kolar said about himself. So I wonder how this is going to fit into Declan Doyle's offense, how it's going to fit into like a new chapter of the Ravens. Maybe they are going more run heavy. Maybe they are just going to fully lean on that. Maybe they trust what they've got in Surratt and Lane, and they, that's all going to be covered. But because of Mark Andrews being the only guy, and Durham Smythe obviously being new to the team, I just look at it as like what's this going to look like? Over like concern. It's like I need to know what this is going to look like, because I know what a John Harbaugh offense looks like. I know what a Todd Monken offense looked like for the Ravens, and so I'm curious to see what their vision is for the next day. And Pat Ricard obviously was such a big part of that run game. So I know they still have a fullback, but he was undrafted and he was only been around on the practice squad. So whether he's going to come into it, Lucas Scott, I don't know, but yeah, interesting. A different look, I think.
It is, yeah. It is interesting. It is going to be a different look. I just look at like who could step up outside of Mark Andrews, because now he's back to the undisputed tight end 1. I think the departure of Likely, that's going to be a huge a huge loss right there. The other four tight ends that you mentioned outside of Andrews, they're all new to the team. Doyle has some experience with Smite because he was with the Bears last year. So we'll see how he's utilized there. I don't really expect anybody to kind of fill in like that Isaiah Likely role because I feel like only he could do that, and it's pretty unfair to ask any of these four guys to do it, especially two rookies and one undrafted player. Well, three rookies in general. So I think that's a little bit unfair. I also look at Mark Andrews, and I wonder if he could return to kind of what he was, not fully what he was, but maybe if he's half of what he was, is that good enough for Doyle's offense, right? Because obviously you have the two stalwarts there in Henry and Jackson. We all know what they're gonna do if and when they're healthy. But can Andrews kind of return to that to be that type of dynamic pass catcher, right? And then you have Zay Flowers too, who's kind of established himself as well. So that'll give Lamar two extra weapons. And I know we talked about the wide receiver room as well, and kind of the opportunities that the young players or even Bateman has, right? So the pass catchers in general, outside of Flowers, everything's kind of maybe a little bit of a question mark. I'm like really excited to see how Doyle uses Andrews in this, how he's going to be utilized. Obviously, he's kind of like a grandpa in terms of his age, of football age. But it's going to be really exciting to see how he's utilized, how the other tight ends are utilized as well. Are they going to use Smite? So it really just like if Mark Andrews. My questions really are like if Mark Andrews could step up, what's he going to look like, and if how the other tight ends are going to be utilized as well.
Yeah, I mean everything's a question right now because it's a brand new coaching staff, it's a brand new offense, it's going to be a brand new everything, and then so training camp is going to start ironing that out. But again, I think it's a double-edged sword when you're relying on rookie players because A, these rookie players could be very good and could help the offense out in a major way. B, they're rookies and could not be good right from the jump, which is kind of usually the case. They need to learn. They need to learn the offense. They need to learn the speed of the NFL, and on it goes. But the hope for Declan Doyle is he's able to unlock or re-unlock what Mark Andrews used to be able to do. Again, I am a firm believer that the offense kind of stalled under Todd Monken and John Harbaugh, which is why they both are gone. And now we get to see what Declan Doyle can do scheme-wise to kind of unlock or move things around and do it in a different way. But this leads us right into a bigger area of concern that it's tied directly to everything the offense has to offer, and that's the offensive line. We've talked about this for weeks on end at this point. I would say maybe half the 30 episodes have been mentioning offensive line, and we're going to do it here again. So, the starters right now, as it's laid out, would be left tackle Ronnie Stanley, left guard would probably be John Simpson, center Danny Pinter is the leading man right now, but that may not be the case when week one rolls around.
I think Corey Bullock's on the depth chart number one.
I would right not. I don't think that's true whatsoever.
I don't think so either, but that's what they're listed as.
That's what it's listed as, but right now, because he was hurt in OTAs and minicamp, Danny Pinter and Jovan Gwynn were the ones that were taking most of the snaps there. But again, the pads aren't on, so it doesn't matter. Danny Pinter, Corey Bullock, let's just say, are the people that are battling it out right now. Then right guard, we got Vega Ioane, rookie player, and then right tackle Roger Rosengarten. So, we got some backups. We got Andrew Voorhees, Jovan Gwynn, I brought up. We got Emory Jones, Diego Pounds. Evan Bierstein was like one of the only other offensive linemen that was drafted by the Ravens. I think he was like the last pick in the 7th round. That being said, a little bit of breaking news to tie this all together with the offensive line. A guy that I've been bringing up for multiple weeks in written word and talking about him, especially if the Ravens do choose to go and get a free agent center, is Ethan Pocic. Ethan Pocic has now been medically cleared to play football once again after tearing his Achilles. So I would assume multiple teams are probably going to be inquiring about Pocic, and I think the Ravens should probably be one of them. They may be biding their time a little bit to see what they truly have as training camp rolls on, but they have been taking their sweet time in the center position a little too much, and I think they need to, if they're going to pull the trigger, do it now and bring in that competition as soon as possible to really either push the people that are in the building, or if it's somebody like Pocic, who is a proven center veteran, then you have your starter for the 2026 season, and they get integrated in the offensive system as fast as possible.
Yeah. For the last, yeah, for the last however many weeks we've been here, it's my biggest concern, because it doesn't matter that Ronnie Stanley's been in the building, that John Simpson's been in the building, you know, Rosengarten is his second year, I think. Voorhees was that. It doesn't matter, because the center, literal center of that O-line was Tyler Linderbaum. And now that personality, let alone, you know, his physicality and his ability to play at that role, you know, is just, that's all going to fall apart now, chemistry wise. You've been playing with these same guys, you've been lining up against these guys and Tyler Linderbaum has been at the center. He's been the guy snapping the ball to Lamar Jackson. And I just think that that's where my biggest concern comes in, is like, that's chemistry, because Tyler Linderbaum has been playing with Lamar Jackson for his entire career. And I think that you just really, really need that balance. And I think not having that defined, like, we don't know who that, we just sat there, we went back and forth about who's the center. We don't know. Does Lamar Jackson know? Does he have a preference? Is he going to get a say on that? I would likely say so. But that's what, during training camp, I'm going to be looking at. And to be honest, I don't think we're even going to see what that actually looks like until we get into the regular season, because how can you? In training camp, you know, the defense aren't going full out. No one's going full out. They're trying to keep their bodies safe as much as possible. And I think it's going to, I think it's going to be an issue for them for the entire season, honestly. I don't see this snapping into place quickly. I hope to be proven wrong. It's big red flags all over the place that they still haven't really defined who's going where and who's doing what. And they're still kind of testing the waters. And I don't know that any of these guys, you know, because even Ronnie Stanley last season, he's Ronnie Stanley and he does a great job, but Lamar had to take him off field and be like, what's going on? Like, figure it out. Like, and he come back and he was better after that, like after having a little pep talk moment. But I don't know what's going on there, whether it was like a Todd Monken scheme thing, whether Declan Doyle's going to come and fix the issues. I think Doyle's going to want to prove himself. I think he will have filled the holes if he was worried about it. And will he with Pocic, like you said, like maybe. But like at some point you need to just say, these are the guys we have and we're going to have to make it work for a year. And you got to focus, you got to lock in, you got to figure it out, because that is who is defending your guy for the next 7 months. So figure it out quickly.
Yeah, I think what you said, this was like, I don't even remember, weeks ago, that the Ravens obviously were not prepared to lose Tyler Linderbaum.
Nope.
And now that's
it wasn't that plan.
That's left them completely scrambling for a center, which they, again, took too long on. They should have drafted one early on, as we had said. They didn't do that. And then they should have went and got one of the free agent centers that were available. You know, I forgot the Patriots free agent that re-signed. There's so many different free agent centers that were available that all went to different teams because the Ravens.
And who would have loved to have stood in front of Lamar Jackson and defended it.
Yeah. So now they're just in a really weird position for this position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, outside of quarterback, to have the biggest question marks, like the offensive line is probably second on the list, and questions like you don't want to have, especially when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson back there. Like, yeah, entering the season, this is the biggest question mark, and as we said, 2 weeks outside of training camp, like I said, we still don't know who the center is. We still don't know, kind of like are they gonna utilize? Are they gonna use, you know, Vega in that position? Probably not. So now you're left with like these couple guys you signed in free agency, Danny Pinter and Gwynn. We're like, okay, well, it's kind of like a tryout now, right? And that's like huge. That's like the biggest downgrade of the offseason for sure. Losing Linderbaum to the Raiders. Not only you not only lose them, but you lose them to another team in the AFC, we don't expect much of the Raiders, but still, though, right? I mean, like that's a huge pickup for Fernando Mendoza slash Kirk Cousins. Yeah, this line. I mean, they have depth for sure, but like it's still kind of like unproven depth. It's not a good thing to look at. That's one of the things that I'm looking at as well. Like how's kind of Doyle gonna manage around this? Is he gonna put the right players in place? Is he, I'm sure these conversations have been had as well, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out in training camp, how that's going to look during the preseason as well. Like, are they going to be, kind of rotating snaps at center? Like, how's that kind of gonna look like as well? I mean, I'm sure Lamar kind of has an idea of what's going to happen, or obviously been in communication with Doyle and Minter as well, and in terms of what's going to happen there. But yeah, it's kind of scary how it's looking right now. They don't have an established center, and that's the person who holds the ball, who has the ball in his possession every single offensive snap. So I mean, that's a really scary thing to kind of think about heading into training camp.
This is where my biggest question comes in, because every major free agent they could have lost this year, they lost. Every single one of them. Isaiah Likely was one thing. Tyler Linderbaum was another thing. Even Jordan Stout is another thing. That's your Pro Bowl punter. And like people say whatever, but we saw how important special teams was. So my question is there was a whole thing about, all the Harbaugh had lost the locker room and the da 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 da, and they didn't want him there anymore. I just don't think that was the case. I don't think anyone was really prepared to lose John Harbaugh this season. And I think that like when you've been on a team that has almost been every single time, like almost been there, and it's not enough at some point to just almost be there. Like you have to actually get to the next step. And obviously this season was just the end of the line because of the playoff missing situation, whatever. But when you lose all of those guys, like you have to question an organizational thing of like, would Tyler Linderbaum not just take a little bit less money to stay in Baltimore? Why did he not do that? Like, why did he not want to stay there? Like, it raises a lot of questions, and that's not like, questioning Eric DeCosta's management style. It's not questioning anything. It's just like my head couldn't wrap around it that like when it was John Harbaugh, then it was Tyler Linderbaum, then it was Isaiah Likely, then it was Jordan Stout, then it was Charlie Kirk, then it was Pat Ricard. Like it was like all of the major free agents they could have lost this year. They actually lost all of them. So like I'm like, what makes you not want to stay in Baltimore? And is it just money? Maybe money just talks in that, and that is all it is. But like my head has been spinning about this for weeks now.
I mean, I think what really happened is they lowballed the hell out of Tyler Linderbaum, which is why he left in the first place.
Yeah, it's probably insulting.
Yeah, I think with how good of a player he is, if the Ravens would have offered him something in the median area between what he got and like they probably offered him something like 18 to 20 million per season. But if they would have just raised it to like 20 to 25 ish, maybe he would have stayed. Maybe he would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm staying. But he got 27, I think it is. In my opinion, like the Raiders like way overshot, but whatever, he's that good though. I will say that. But now, yeah, like now I don't think he lost the locker room by any means. I just think the biggest reason why they had to move on is A, the playoff thing, but B, I think because they couldn't, you're wasting Lamar Jackson's prime years. That's the guy. That is the guy in the building. And if you cannot find a way for him to elevate his game, even from year to year, that's a huge problem, because then you need to find somebody who can. You need to find that offensive mind who can elevate him, who can get him to that next level. Even though he's won 2 league MVPs, you have to get him to the point where he's able to consistently play well in the playoffs and all that good stuff. And that clearly wasn't John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, as we've seen. So that, but now you find yourself in an even worse position, because now you don't have a starting center, a capable, or rather a proven starting center. Danny Pinter has 10 starts. Jovan Gwynn has never been a center. And Corey Bullock was the direct backup to Tyler Linderbaum, but who knows if he's going to be ready to go. And then, again, you already lost out on getting some of the veterans that were already readily available there, and you just kind of skipped past that idea. And Jesse Minter, even after he came aboard, was like, oh, yeah, there's some people that we're probably going to be looking at. Well, why weren't you looking at them months ago when free agency started? You had already taken over the organization, but you just slept on it. And so did Eric DeCosta, and so did everybody. And so now you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to see just how I don't want to say terrible, just how big of a struggle it's going to be if that center does not integrate in the system and can open the run lanes for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. It can also protect Lamar Jackson so he can plant his feet and throw the ball downfield. So again, we don't know who's the center is going to be. Training camp is right around the corner. We're going to start seeing who's going to be taking snaps with the ones and all that good stuff. It's going to be a good competition for sure. But are any of these guys the guy?
Maybe they are. Maybe they know something we don't.
Yeah, maybe they are.
I look forward to being proven wrong.
Yeah, and look, they to their credit, to Eric DeCosta's credit, and to Jesse Minter, or whoever had their hand in bringing in, they brought in several players that could very well be the guy. So they didn't. It's not like they were just not doing anything, but I don't know if it was something that they did. So, the offensive line has been a concern for the Ravens for multiple years at this point. It's going to continue being a concern until they really, really invest a lot of money and time into the position. I don't think they did a very good job in this offseason, especially because the center, we're talking about the center position still, and we're a week away from training camp. So I don't know. Again, they may know something that we don't know. They may very well see the guy could be there. It could be Danny Pinter. They could be like, hey, this guy's a mauler. He's like Tyler Linderbaum or whatever. We don't know. But training camp will start to see it. It'll be very evident if training camp kicks off and then all of a sudden they bring in Ethan Pochich. I'll just say that. It's going to be very evident.
Everyone should be worried at that point.
Exactly. So, I mean, but that's the usual case for training camp anyway, is like you see what you got. And if in the beginning of it or the outset of it, it's not working out, you go and get more players, you bring them in for competition. Yeah. Every team does this, we understand. But all that to say, this has been Roundtable Ravens, episode number 30. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, please do all the social media things, like, share, subscribe. We will be back next week to talk more training camp positions as we head into training camp. Training camp is here, people. Football is nearly back in a big way. We got training camp that's going to lead into preseason. That's going to lead into the regular season. We're going to keep talking about two big things in training camp. One, who's going to be that wide receiver 3? 2, who the hell is going to be the center? We don't know, but we're going to keep talking about it. So thanks for listening.